You're an embarrassment to the United States. If Russia invades NATO allies, I have called for your resignation. I didn't think you were qualified before your confirmation, and you have done nothing to inspire confidence in your ability to lead competently.
Of questionable decisions by Pete Hegseth. It's why I never thought he was qualified to be the Secretary of Defense in the first place.
Pete Hegseth just got officially banned from Congress after Mikie Sherrill dropped a bomb that left the entire room frozen. One hearing, a few brutal questions, and his whole image crumbled right there on record. The details she pulled out were so bad, even his biggest supporters couldn't spin their way out of it. And if you don't know anything about this drama, let me tell you where it really blew up. Pete Hegseth? Yes, the same guy sitting in one of the most powerful defense positions in the country, went out of his way to publicly endorse Pastor Doug Wilson. Now, this isn't just some small-town preacher with quirky ideas.
You've clearly shown you're unable to manage the Department of Defense, but what I'm most concerned about are three specific areas: your operational incompetence.
Wilson is a full-blown far-right evangelical leader who doesn't just want religion to influence politics, he wants religion to replace politics. His vision? Scrap democracy and turn America into a theocracy. That's not an exaggeration. That's straight from his own interviews.
Your managerial incompetence and your budgetary incompetence. So let's start with operational.
One of Wilson's most jaw-dropping beliefs is that women should lose the right to vote. Not hinted at, not implied. He said it openly and without shame.
Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, he reposted a CNN segment about this far-right evangelical Christian nationalist pastor.
According to him, in his ideal system, households would vote as a single unit. And guess who gets to cast that vote? The man. Women, in his world, aren't political individuals. They're just supposed to submit to their husbands and trust them to make every decision. And if that doesn't already reek of something dragged out of the 1800s, it's just the beginning.
One of the things he advocates for and believes in is taking away the right to vote from women.
Wilson's entire platform is dripping with segregationist undertones, rigid patriarchal rules, and extreme anti-LGBTQ policies. He wants to bring back sodomy bans, and not just for same-sex couples, but for heterosexual couples too. Think about that. The government deciding what consenting adults can and can't do in their own bedrooms.
It's a fascist country, right? It's a fascist regime. It's a fascist country. If you really let them go, let their freak flag fly, this is the shit they want to do. This is actually what they want to do.
He doesn't see this as invasive. He sees it as moral order. And the scariest part? Hegseth isn't just aware of all this. He's out there giving the guy glowing endorsements. This isn't some fringe voice shouting into the void. Wilson has been quietly building an empire, planting churches, creating loyal communities, and gaining influence in places that should be the most secular in the country. His network has even reached into Pentagon prayer services, with direct links to the Trump administration. We're not talking about someone hoping to preach to the choir. We're talking about a man positioning himself to reshape the law of the land.
Every society is theocratic. The only question is who's Theo? In a secular democracy, it would be demos, the people. In a Christian republic, it'd be...
Wilson calls his vision a Christian republic. But strip away the branding, and what you get is a straight-up authoritarian blueprint. In his America, men vote, women obey. Leadership, whether in church or government, is for men only. The LGBTQ community, erased from public life through laws and punishments. And this isn't just about faith guiding morality. This is about using faith as the weapon to dismantle civil rights.
Well, how fucking mighty convenient that your version of Christ happens to agree with you.
Then, there's his revisionist take on one of the darkest chapters in history, slavery. Wilson has said there was mutual affection between some masters and slaves, as if the centuries of brutality, exploitation, and generational trauma were just complicated relationships. This isn't just offensive, It's dangerous historical whitewashing that tries to make oppression seem palatable, and it's a window into how he views hierarchy. Certain groups are just meant to be in charge, and others are meant to stay in their place.
Funding to pay for these projects.
We make trade-offs every day, and I would imagine what we want to spend on is quite different than what the previous administration.
When someone like Pete Hegseth, who sits at the top of the defense chain, aligns himself with a man like this, it's not just bad optics. It's a flashing red warning sign. It means the person helping make national security decisions is also propping up a man whose endgame is stripping millions of Americans of their rights. And the thing about Wilson's plan, it's not about winning one election or passing one law. It's about reshaping the very foundation of how the country operates until democracy isn't even recognizable.
Cost about $1 billion, and a week later they were having missile strike.
This is why the backlash against Hegseth isn't just political theater. It's about the real-world consequences of letting someone in his position cozy up to extremist ideologues. Because when those ideologues have a pipeline into power, it's not long before their Christian republic stops being a talking point and starts being written into law. Within just days of stepping into the role of Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth was already tangled in what may be one of the most costly and reckless early blunders in modern Pentagon history. On January 30th, his first week in office, multiple news outlets reported that Hegseth misinterpreted a directive from then-President Donald Trump during a National Security Council meeting.
According to news reports, in your first week on the job, you got confused in a National Security Council meeting and thought President Trump wanted you to stop all aid to Ukraine.
According to those accounts, Trump's comments were about reviewing military aid to Ukraine. But Hegseth apparently took it as an immediate order to halt the assistance entirely. Instead of clarifying, verifying, or even seeking a second opinion, something you'd expect from someone managing the U.S. military's operational lifeline, Hegseth ordered the shipments turned around.
In a well-functioning administration, you would have asked for clarification before making that seismic policy shift, but instead you ordered vital military aid heading to the front lines turned around.
These weren't symbolic care packages. They were vital weapons and equipment already on their way to Ukrainian forces engaged in active conflict with Russia. The impact was immediate. Ukrainian troops, who were relying on the promised U.S. support, suddenly found themselves short on critical gear right as Russian forces were pressing harder on key front lines. The interruption didn't just disrupt logistics. It left soldiers exposed and undersupplied in a war zone. Financially, the U.S. took a hit in the millions, as transporting heavy equipment halfway across the world, only to reverse course, is a logistical nightmare that burns through budget and resources. And strategically, the pause handed Moscow a temporary but tangible advantage.
One of many fake news headlines we've dealt with.
When grilled about the incident in Congress, Hegseth dismissed the reporting as fake news and painted it as media speculation designed to smear both him and Trump. But the question remained, if this wasn't a mistake, why did the aid suddenly resume just a few days later? That detail is crucial because it undermines his "nothing happened" defense. No matter how many times he waved off the story, Hegseth never provided a clear operational reason for the reversal. For military planners and lawmakers alike, it wasn't just an embarrassing slip. It was proof that the Pentagon's top leadership could misinterpret presidential intent and disrupt international military commitments within a matter of hours.
Let's move on to your managerial incompetence. I think we can see why you misunderstood the president, because you're obviously misunderstanding my questions. Less than a month into the job, you fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
If that was strike one, strike two came in less than a month. And it was even more explosive politically. On February 24th, Hegseth abruptly fired two of the most high-profile leaders in the U.S. military, General Charles Q. Brown Jr., the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the first woman to serve as Chief of Naval Operations. These weren't quiet retirements or slow transitions. They were public, no-cause terminations that blindsided Washington. Representative Mikie Sherrill, who directly confronted Hegseth in hearings, didn't mince words. She alleged the firings were motivated by race in Brown's case and gender in Franchetti's. Coming from a sitting member of Congress, that wasn't just political theater. It was a direct accusation of discrimination at the highest levels of defense leadership.
That you haven't nominated someone because qualified admirals keep turning the position down. So tell me, Mr. Secretary, when will Congress receive?
The fallout was immediate. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs is the highest-ranking military officer in the country, and the Chief of Naval Operations runs one of the most strategically vital branches. Removing both in quick succession without clear explanations sent shockwaves through the ranks. Career officers and defense analysts noted how rare it is to fire service chiefs without scandal, insubordination, or a major policy rift, none of which were publicly cited here. The Pentagon suddenly had two gaping holes in its command structure at a time when the U.S. was already juggling tensions in Eastern Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East.
Ma'am, with all due respect, I would suggest not believing every headline you read.
With all due respect, I'd like your nomination. When will we see it?
There is not a single admiral or any.
The combined effect of these two incidents, halting Ukraine aid in January and gutting top military leadership in February, left Congress, allies, and even some inside the Pentagon questioning whether Hegseth was acting in the country's strategic interest or advancing a personal and political agenda. These weren't small missteps buried in policy papers. They were headline-making moves with measurable impact on America's allies, its global reputation, and its military readiness. And for someone who had been in the job for less than a month, the pattern was already raising alarms far beyond Capitol Hill.